Hello, welcome to my another tech video. In this video, I am going to talk about access modifiers in .NET. I will show a brief demo about the usage of access modifiers. But before going to demo, I want to tell what the access modifier is. Basically, access modifiers are keywords used to set the visibility and accessibility of classes, methods, and variables. Their primary purpose is to enforce encapsulation, protect sensitive data from unauthorized modification, and prevent unintended interference between different parts of a program. So we always want a class will not have access to another variables or methods that class should not. So the class will only access the needed variables and methods. In this way, you can easily maintain your code. It is good for data security and hiding, and you can also manage the scope of variables and methods. So I am going to show a demo now. This is the console application, and this is the class library. I have created the project in Visual Studio 2026 and using the .NET 10. So first of all, in the console application, I have created a parent class. There I have actually declared few modifiers, and the modifiers are public, private, internal, protected, private, protected. So here I will show about the usage and effects of every modifiers. First, I have written briefly about the purpose of each modifiers and accessibility. Public is accessible in all derived and non-derived classes across all the assemblies. Private is accessible within the class only. Internal is accessible within the class, and derived class in same assembly, and non-derived class in the same assembly. Then protected is accessible within the class, and in derived class same and different assembly, and non-derived class same assembly. Protected is accessible within the class and derived class of same and different assembly. And lastly, private protected. This modifier is accessible within the class and derived class of same assembly. Basically, you can see that all the modifiers are accessible within the class, of course. So the class that is actually containing the modifier and the class that is actually declared within the class, this class will of course will be able to access these modifiers. So all the modifiers are accessible within the class here: public, private, internal, protected, and private protected. So if I now run this application, so all accessible inside the same class. Now I am going to show you step by step about the other usage of the modifiers. I have created another class which is the child class in this same assembly. And another thing I want to tell you about the assembly. Assembly is actually the project. So if you have 3 projects in the same solutions, then there will be 3 assemblies. Here I have 2 different assemblies. One assembly is access modifier test application, and another assembly is access modifier check. So each project is containing its own exe and DLL files. So each assembly will contain their own DLL and exe So you can also create another solution and create another class project there, and it will be also treated as a different assembly. So the difference between same and different assembly is the project is itself is an assembly. So you have two projects, you will have two assembly. You have three projects, you will have three assemblies. So I will show how I set up assembly later. So here in this access modifier test application, or in this assembly, I have created a class file, child assembly, which is actually a derived class and which is deriving a parent class. So you can see that in the same assembly, the derived class can access all the access modifiers except private. So if I uncomment this, you see that private is not accessible. It is showing an error that it is inaccessible due to protection level, because this is private. So private is only accessible within the class in which it was declared. And all the other modifiers are accessible. Public is basically accessible to all the classes, derived, non-derived, in the same assembly, in the different assembly, it doesn't matter. Public is accessible in all the scopes. And private is only accessible within the class. So basically the public and private is clearly distinctive, clearly opposite to one another. And if I run this now, you can see that derived class in same assembly, all are accessible. We accept the private. And if I now run, of course it will show error, as it is shown it is not accessible. Now in the non-derived class, in the same assembly, the number of access modifiers has been decreased. That is, only the public internal and protected internal are accessible in the non-derived class of the same assembly, and protected, protected and private are not accessible. Now I have created another class project and added the reference of my access modifier test application assembly. So how I created the class project, I have selected the solution, add a new project. In the new project, you can create a class library project. So I have already created class project but for your case, if you want to find easily, you can write this in the search text box and select this and then create next according to the prompt, and you will create this class project. So in this class project, in the another assembly, I have referenced the access modifier test application. So what I did, I added the reference in this way. So I have created a project reference and then browse and select your DLL files of the another assembly. So when you reference this, after selecting this, you will select OK, and it will add your reference here. So this is an assembly. I have referenced another assembly, which is the access modifier test application. So after you added an assembly in the class, what I did, I created a class child different assembly, named it like this, and I have referenced the parent class of the access modifier test application project. So you see that it is using the reference. So if you uncomment this, it will show error. So you can go and select using, and it will basically the reference will work. So now I can access the correct modifiers in this different assembly class, which is a derived class of parent class. So we can access public, as I said, public is accessible in all types of classes. It is scoped anywhere, and in the protected and protected internal. So public, protected, and protected internal are accessible in the derived class of the same assembly and also in the different assembly. But the internal, private, protected, and private is not accessible. If I uncomment this will show error. So you can realize that how the access modifiers are actually encapsulating your scopes, your data, your variable, your methods. You can also declare methods with those access modifiers, and the particular methods of the particular access modifiers will be scoped differently in another assembly or in the same assembly in the different classes. And I have created non-derived class, then the scope of the access modifiers are even less. So the number of scopes has been even more decreased of the access modifiers. Here only the public modifier is accessible, others are not. So if I uncomment, those are actually inaccessible, so it will show error. So you can realize already that how access modifiers are good for security and code maintainability. So you will only define a method or variable with the correct access modifier, so that the access is only available to the needed class that you want. So if I run the application whole, you can see that output all accessible inside same class. These access modifiers are accessible inside same class, in the same assembly, and in the non-derived class also. These properties, these variables, you mean the access modifiers. And in the parent class, non-derived class of the parent classes, because it is referencing. Thank you. I hope you have understood what the access modifiers are, and what are the scopes, and what are the advantages of using the appropriate access modifiers. Thank you.